Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and I'm actually doing a tier list that somebody had suggested a little bit ago. I do cover NXT a lot of the times, but I don't always do the match on the week to week stuff. So these are all like the major matches that has happened this year. So I figured we'd cover those plus the two PLE, which I've had covered before, but I think it just fits this as being like the most major matches that has been NXT for the last couple months. I mean, 2 months to be exact. So let's just jump into it. First, we had a tag team title match, which has been a while now because the champs are not the champs anymore, but it was Bianca and Naomi versus Lash and Jakara. This match absolutely cooked when it happened. The back and forth and like just the strength between all four women, it was just really showing off. Especially because like I think Jakara always kind of gets like a little bit like not as much light on her compared to the strength and everything that we see from Lash Legend. So I think she really did have a much better shot to shine in this match. And I think it was a really solid match. A tier for me. Then we had Fraxium versus Out of the Mud. Honestly, I thought this match would be worse, but I think they got a lot more out of the Mud. It's not that I don't even think they're bad. It's just like the conflicting styles aren't always there sometimes when it comes to wrestling. But I think this one did pretty solid. I'd put it in a solid B match. Probably Fraxium's worst match of the year, but it still was really good. Then we had the tag team match, which was Julia and Bailey versus Cora Jade and Roxanne. A lot of stuff happened on this match, but I think overall it was a really good match. Julia just doesn't miss. All of her matches so far in NXT have been really good. Mix that with Bailey, and all of them were pretty solid. Cora Jade also looked pretty good in this match, which doesn't always happen when you have the other talents that you have in it. Nothing against Cora Jade, but out of the four, she's definitely the least um, decorated and pushed out of all of them. Then we had New Year's Evil, where it was Julia versus Roxanne, and Julia took the title off of Roxanne. This was such a good match. It's been one of my favorite matches this year, probably in my top 10 at least. S tier for me. And then we had the Fatal Four Way to was for the number one contendership. This match ended up being like it was a good match. It was just weird because it ended up like not really getting Stephanie the number one contendership. It was just a huge thing, but it still ended up working out because Stephanie did get the title on the very next match that we're going to cover here. So this match itself was really solid, A tier. Like I said, NXT has been on a hot run, and it's hard to even like get anything lower than a B. And I don't even know. I haven't looked fully at the matches that I'm covering, but I don't know if I would put anything lower than that. Next up was Fallon Henley versus Stephanie. I think this one was a pretty solid match. I think Stephanie definitely outshined Fallon, but Fallon, this is still developmental. I think she's still coming together with her character work and her in-ring work, but I still think it was still good enough to be on the card, good enough to be B. Then we had okay, now I was gonna say we hadn't had a match below B, but I absolutely hated this match, the strat match between Trick and Eddie Forbes. I know that we were trying to build a story for Trick doing it. I didn't even care that Trick lost. I don't think that really put it in as much like put it as a bad match to me, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like this match at all. D for me. Next up, we had a sneakily good match, which was Fraxium versus the new like team. It was a new team. It was Briggs and I forgot his name, but it was a really really good match. I thought it was one of the best matches on Vengeance to the card. S tier for sure. Then we had Javon Evans versus Ethan Page. It was more of just kind of like a grudge match, so it had like a little bit more brutality to it. But I think overall, pretty solid match. I put it in B. It was a good match to have on the card. Then we had the Fatal Four Way for the NXT title at Vengeance Day, which is just a crazy thing for Julia to be her first title defense with these three other women. It was a really good match. I think I'd put it in A. I think it was just missing just a little bit to it, but it's still a really, really solid match. Then we have Obafemi versus basically A-Town Down Under. It was a triple threat match for the NXT title. Obafemi is always an SA tier person for me. I think this one slid into the S tier because I have seen it again, and I think it definitely got up higher. Then we had the six women tag match, which was Fatal Influence versus not Julia, yeah, Julia, Jordan Grace, and Stephanie Vercor. Man, that was a just star power out of the wazoo. Obviously, the big three were amazing. The other side, did what they could, but obviously kind of made the match a little bit worse. But I'll put it in A. Then we had Moose versus Lexus King. It was a very enjoyable match. It was very predictable and like Lexus looked good in it, but I think that he definitely could have maybe cooked it up a little bit harder. But I think Moose looked good. I put it in B. Then we had Stephanie versus Carmen. This was Stephanie's first title defense. I think it lacked a little bit on Carmen's side. I think she's still trying to get everything down, but she really did look like she was mounting some good offense there. So I'll put it in B. I still enjoyed it. Then we had this was just from the last show too. Javon Evans and Ricky Saints making his debut versus Ethan Page and Wesley, which ended up kind of turning into a one-on-one match because Javon Evans and Ethan Page kind of like went to the backstage. I think overall it was a pretty solid match. I'd put it in B. I feel like having it kind of boil down to a one-on-one kind of could have ruined it because we kind of wanted to see a little bit more of the other two, but I think it worked for the storyline. And then we had the Hardys making their debut back in WWE against the No Catch Republic. Obviously, the Hardys are a little on the older side, so they, struggled, but I think it was still, for nostalgia, it was still a pretty good match. I'd put it in C. Not the greatest, but I think for a match to see the Hardys again, I was perfectly fine with that happening. And those have been the major NXT matches in the last month. I had seen this. I've had this giant tier list that has a bunch of matches, and I was thinking, I'm like, I haven't covered as many NXT matches, and this would be pretty solid as a good rundown for the first 2 months of NXT. But yeah, tell me what you guys think, and tell me if you had any favorite matches or if there's any matches I missed here that should have made this list because it was also really good. But yeah, till next time, it's been Japan. Bye, guys.